Welcome back to Wednesday Ramblings. It is Wednesday, October 5th, and that means that it is the season premiere day for the new season of Chucky. So I am going to go back and talk about the series, which I talked a little bit about in my my very first Wednesday Ramblings, but today is going to be all about the TV series. Now, before I start, I do have a bit of unfortunate news to share. My little buddy died on me. Um, about a week or two ago, I woke up during the night and knocked it over on the floor going to the bathroom. And I didn't think much of it. I picked him up and set him back on the table, went back to sleep. An hour later, woke up and discovered Chucky had no head. Normally, Chucky can survive that, but I guess Charles Lee Ray has not placed his soul into this yet. So I found his head just lying on the floor, completely inanimate. So this Chucky's a goner, but the rest of the Chuckies are not, and they are causing problems. Now, I believe the new season is going to be on both Sci-Fi Network and the USA Network again. I'm not sure about that. It might just be one or the other, but I know last year it was on both. And so I have decided to once again devote an episode to the season. Now, I'm going to break this up into 2 episodes this time. This first videos. The first video, I'm going to kind of give a general overview of the season, as well as some thoughts that pertained to the primary storyline that ran throughout the season. And then the second video, I'll give a few thoughts about things that Don Mancini did with the season that I both enjoyed and didn't like, but don't pertain so much to the plot. So for the plot, we're going to start in this video today. So the series follows Jake Wheeler, a young gay youth who lives with his father. His mother passed away several years earlier, and his father does not approve of him being gay. Jake likes to create sculptures with a lot of doll parts. He's kind of a weird kid. And at a yard sale, he stumbles across a good guy doll. So, of course, he picks it up, and, of course, that good guy doll is Chucky. Now, at school, Jake is bullied by multiple people. One of the people, probably the one who bullies him the least, at least at school, is his cousin Junior. But there's also Lexi, who's a major character throughout the series, and as well as a kid named Oliver, who's not as important. But they both like tormenting him for no reason that we can see. No reason's ever actually given throughout the show for why they don't like him, which is one of my faults, especially Junior. Junior treats him not as bad as Lexi, but still, Junior's just terrible to him. And Junior never redeems himself at any point in my eyes. So, in addition to that, Jake also has a crush on a kid named Devin, who is the son of a detective in town, who also runs a podcast devoted to serial killers. So, as the first episode goes along, Jake gains Chucky, who quickly kills their cat, because their cat's an asshole. And towards the end of the first episode, Jake's dad strikes him. Primarily because he can't accept the fact that Jake is gay. And so Jake runs upstairs crying. Jake has already learned by this point, I believe, that Chucky is alive. But I'll skip through that. That's not super important to the first episode, really. Chucky winds up killing Jake's father by electrocuting him to death. He turns out all the power, and when Lucas goes downstairs to investigate, Chucky spews, I think it was alcohol, all over the ground, electrocuting Lucas to death. So this results in Jake going to live with his aunt and uncle. Now, apologies to any names I mispronounce of the performers, which I'm sure I'm going to do. But Jake's aunt and uncle are Logan and Bree, played by Devon Sawa and Lexa Doig. And so he goes to live with them and Junior. Now, in the first episode, we had seen, for some reason, at a family dinner, Junior just constantly referencing Jake being gay. Um, the Bree and Logan both were like, knock it off, it's not a big deal. Whereas Jake's father, Lucas, didn't really want to weigh in on it. He didn't want to hear about it at all. So he goes to live with them. The aunt and uncle are fine with him, but Junior's kind of a prick. Um, while he's there, shortly after arriving, Chucky winds up killing off the family maid. Housekeeper, I'm not really sure. But there's a scene where Logan and Bree, when Detective Evans is questioning if Junior might have had an issue with her, they reference the fact that she was like family and practically raised Junior, yet they have no idea who her next of kin would be. So for some reason, Chucky tells Jake that he did not kill the maid. She just slipped and fell on the knives herself. And I think Jake actually kind of buys it. They bond a bit when Chucky confides that he has a queer kid. I forget if he uses non-binary or gender fluid. I think gender fluid, but referring to Glenn and Glenda, of course, from Seed of Chucky, who have not been seen since then, but will be seen in the new season, Season 2, that, like I said, debuts tonight. So, Lexi, who's always kind of treated Jake like crap, is even madder at Jake now after the talent show that happened shortly before Lucas's murder. At the show, Lexi kind of implied to everyone that Jake had a crush on Devin, even hinting that Jake should let Devin know in front of his mother how he feels. Jake didn't know how to react, and all of a sudden, Chucky started talking. And Jake pretended that he was a ventriloquist after Chucky whispered something to him. But Chucky made various comments, reading through Lexi's phone, some private information, revealing that Bree has a secret, which we had learned about in the first episode, though we didn't know what the secret was. There was just a point where she was on a call with someone, and it was clear she was keeping things from her family. So Lexi, the bully, feels bullied by Jake because of Chucky's antics, despite the fact that this was all in direct response to Lexi basically bullying Jake in front of everyone. So at the Halloween costume, Jake goes downstairs after being locked in a closet for 7 minutes in hell with Devin by Oliver, the other bully. Jake witnesses Lexi's Halloween costume, which is Lucas being electrocuted to death. Multiple kids are laughing. Junior is kind of horrified to see this behavior from his girlfriend, because remember, Lucas is his uncle. They didn't appear to be close, but this is his family that his girlfriend is mocking. And one of my biggest faults with Junior is he doesn't seem overly concerned about this, that she is just disrespecting your uncle's death. Technically murder, but everyone thinks it was just an accident. So Jake is horrified by this, and he wants to kill Lexi, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. So in the next episode, Jake, with prompting from Chucky, is ready to kill Lexi. She's tormented him too long, and she's crossed the line. So Jake does actually go after Lexi when she's jogging, only it's a case of mistaken identity, so he's actually following Junior. Junior has discovered that Jake seems very interested in Lexi for some reason. At least that's what Junior thinks. The truth is, Chucky is the one who was snooping on Lexi using Jake's computer, but Junior found it and naturally assumed that it was Jake's doing. So he warns Lexi. And in a scene that I found reprehensible, and it makes it, the show attempts to redeem Lexi somewhat, but in my eyes, I don't believe I can really view her as redeemed. Maybe Season 2 will change that, but she's just heartless. She refuses to apologize. She doesn't care that this was Junior's uncle that she was mocking the death of. She's just completely awful. And one of my biggest problems with a lot of shows is when they make characters just be assholes for the sake of being an asshole. No reason is ever given, really, for why Lexi treats Jake the way he does. Yes, there was the talent show thing, but let's not forget, she was already treating him crappy before that. So, after that, her little sister Caroline became infatuated with Chucky at the talent show. And so, it's never stated exactly what's going on with Caroline, but I believe she's on this the autism spectrum disorder with some of her behavior. But if I'm wrong, please feel free to leave a comment and clear that up for me. But she's just obsessed with Chucky. So to get her to quit having a fit, Lexi goes to Jake to pretend to apologize, and then asks for Chucky. Jake initially refuses, but later on, Chucky basically convinces Jake, give her what she wants, because by now Jake wants Lexi dead for the way she's behaved. And if Jake can't kill her, Lexi, Chucky's willing to. So Jake does wind up giving Chucky to Lexi to give to Caroline, which results in Caroline and Chucky bonding. So Lexi holds a party that, of course, Jake's not invited to. Even after giving Chucky to Lexi, she makes it clear, we're not friends. So she throws a party, and Chucky decides to kill Lexi. So he goes after Lexi and stabs her, thinking it's her, but it's actually Oliver, the bully that had locked Jake in the closet with Devin in the previous episode. So he murders him and then goes after Lexi. A struggle ensues between them, and the house winds up on fire. So everyone survives. That's revealed in the next episode, except, of course, for Oliver, who was stabbed to death. But everyone is injured. Junior's lungs are damaged, so he's not going to be able to do track like he should be able to. Caroline is on a ventilator. Strangely, Lexi, who was the closest to the flames, survived and has no real damage. But, so Lexi winds up talking to Jake and basically finds out Jake already knows that Chucky is alive and that Jake gave Chucky to her specifically to kill Lexi. Which, of course, brings on the poor, oh, woe is me, I'm such an innocent angel act from Lexi, which was nauseating to sit through. So the two of them go back to the house to find Chucky to make sure he's dead, because neither one of them have seen him since then. And during all of this, there are some weird scenes at the hospital. Before they left the hospital, there's a scene where a ball rolls up to Jake's foot, and a woman with a kind of a creepy smile picks it up and walks off and references her son. And later on in the episode, we see her holding a kid, and the kid is wearing an outfit very similar to Chucky's. And at a couple of points throughout the episode, we see what appears to be Chucky walking around in the background. First instance it happens is when Junior is being sedated for a procedure for his lungs. He starts kind of mumbling and singing, we've got the beat, we've got the beat. You know that song. Especially if you've watched this show, you know that song. And he sees what appears to be Chucky in the background, but he's sedated. He doesn't remember this. And then also, Lexi sees it at the end. But what's weird is Chucky is not at the hospital. He is still back at Lexi's burned down place, all deformed, face disfigured. Of course, Lexi and Jake haven't found him yet. They're looking for him. And they have a conversation about the fact that Jake wanted Lexi dead, and she actually asks, did it really get that bad? You've been tormenting him forever, and you crossed a line. Yes, it got that bad. I don't blame him for wanting her dead. I love the actress's performance, but my God, did I want Lexi to die. I just couldn't stand, especially in the first half of the season, I couldn't stand it because I hate characters who are assholes just for the sake of being an asshole, and that's exactly what Lexi was. Um, Now, they did a little bit of showing that her home life's not the greatest. Her mother is the mayor, and the first time we really meet them, she does kind of give Lexi attitude. But quite frankly, Lexi deserved it at the time. But it becomes progressively worse throughout the season, whereas the father is more sympathetic. But so I guess we're supposed to believe that she's this way because poor mommy and daddy. But I don't care. She's awful. She chose to be awful. She's old enough not to behave this way. She might only be 14, but she's old enough not to behave like a monster. So I just did not have sympathy for her as she's whining to Jake about the fact he wanted her dead. You deserved it. Quite frankly, anyone who constantly torments someone the way that you do, you deserve it. So as they're walking around, she winds up falling off the balcony, and Jake grabs hold of her. He saves her, and as he's trying to pick her up, deformed Chucky shows up, and he tries to convince her, just drop her, let her down, kill her. Jake won't do it and pulls her up, and so Chucky decides he'll kill him. But before he can, a police detective arrives, not the same one as earlier, not Detective Evans, who is Devin's mom, but another one. He takes both kids back to the hospital. They're not supposed to be in this rundown, burnt building. And he also takes the ugly doll. The reason he showed up is because Lexi's parents asked if he would go back to find the doll for Caroline, who's been crying for Chucky. So he takes them back. And when they get out of the vehicle, before Jake can even go in, he is stopped by Detective Evans, who is convinced that something is going on with Jake. She's warned Devin to stay away from Jake. Because either, in her words, either Jake is trouble or trouble follows Jake. So she asks him a lot of questions because multiple people have died around Jake now. His father, as well as the maid. He had issues with Oliver, though he wasn't at the party. That doesn't mean he couldn't have snuck in and killed Oliver. So she questions him, but she also has questions about Chucky. In the previous episode, a woman was injured by Chucky, who gave her an apple with a razor blade in it. And so when she describes the child to Detective Evans, Evans notices that it sounds like a good guy doll. So she's asking questions, which led some people to believe, does she know something about Chucky? While all of this is going on, Chucky winds up killing the other police detective and then pulls Caroline's heart monitor off. So as everyone starts to panic over Caroline, they discover the detective's body. Now, earlier in the episode, Devin, who does not know about Chucky, has been looking up information on good guy doll urban legends, and he discovers the urban legend of Charles Lee Ray putting his soul into a good guy doll. So he's back at the hospital with everyone. Everyone's gathered around, all panicking over the dead body and trying to save Caroline. Only the three kids notices as Chucky lifts a finger and flips them all off. So now Devin is also a witness to the fact that Chucky is very much alive. So this is the halfway point of the season, and some characters from the movies start to appear in episode 5. Tiffany and Nika are back and in Hackensack. And it turns out that if you haven't seen Cult of Chucky or Curse of Chucky, Nika is a young paraplegic woman that Chucky has recently become obsessed with. He was actually obsessed with her mother, and shortly before he had to possess a good guy doll to save himself, he had kidnapped her mother and stabbed her, which is what resulted in Nika's paraplegic status. In Cult of Chucky, when we find out that Chucky can actually possess multiple dolls, he also possesses Nika. And when he is in possession of Nika's body, he's no longer paraplegic. So I guess voodoo is a good thing, I guess. I don't know. But however, certain events, usually it seems when blood splatters on her, when blood gets on Chucky/Nika, she reverts back to Nika. And that happens after an argument with Tiffany. And Nika realizes that she and Tiffany had kidnapped this guy and murdered someone else. She tries to free the guy, but Tiffany shows back up, and I forget how, but somehow Chucky regains control of it's when the guy, she tries to untie the victim, and he hits her, not understanding, that she's possessed by voodoo. He thinks she's just crazy. And that allows Chucky to regain control. So Chucky winds up killing him to make sure that Tiffany does not find out that Nika occasionally regains control of their body. Meanwhile, Caroline is saved. She's not killed after Chucky pulled the plug on her. And her father winds up giving her a new Chucky doll because she is terrified of the burnt one. So he gives her Tommy. Nice reference to the second movie, Child's Play 2. That is the name of the doll that I can't remember their name, but the Foster family had at their house. So there was a weird scene here. When Lexi first sees the new doll, she freaks out on it. At this point, they have no idea that Chucky is able to switch bodies around. So I didn't understand, why does she think this doll is Chucky? But she freaks out on the doll, basically assaulting it in front of her family. And later on, they find the burned one. And so her, Devin, and Jake all completely destroy it. Now that they think Chucky is out of their lives for good, Jake and Devin finally share a kiss and get together. It's never really made clear, was Devin always out to kids? I also wondered, how did Lexi even know that Jake liked Devin? A friend of mine suggested that there's probably social cues, but in Jake's case, he's not really close to anyone, so I just don't see it. Like, he didn't even really talk to Devin until Devin started talking to him. So, with Chucky seemingly destroyed, everything looks good until Bree, remember that's Jake's aunt, finally reveals the secret she's been keeping from everyone, which is that she has stage 4 cancer and does not have much time left. So most people thought she was probably having an affair, and that's who she was talking to on the phone. But it turns out that was conversations with either her therapist or doctor about her condition. So with Chucky dead and the murder seemingly over, the town has a town hall meeting at the high school. Oh, one thing I mentioned, I set this up to mention earlier. In the previous episode, remember Detective Evans believed Jake might be involved in the murders. But after episode 4, it's never explicitly stated, but after episode 4, there is no way that she could think Jake is a killer, because she was Jake's alibi for the other police officer's murder. When the officer and Jake arrived, the officer went in, but she stopped Jake, and he was killed while with Jake. So at this point, she has to know Jake himself is not the murderer. So I don't even remember why, but everyone seems to think the murders are going to stop now. So they have a town hall meeting, and at the town hall meeting, Junior has become freaked out by the fact that Devin, Lexi, and Junior are hanging out so much. He doesn't understand why they're hanging out. He's friends with Devin, and I don't think he cares too much about Devin hanging out with Jake, but he does not like Lexi doing it. And they have not told him why, because they don't think Jake will handle it. Lexi says he does not have the imagination to believe a doll is possessed by a serial killer. So finally, she does kind of tell him, and he doesn't believe her, which she takes as proof that she was right, but she kind of actually tells him in a really, really strange way that did not sound like she was even trying to be believable. So he thinks she's just making it up, and he gets frustrated and walks off. And while everyone is sitting there, all of a sudden the principal's head rolls out from behind the curtains, revealing there is very much a killer alive. And all three kids wondering, what happened? We killed Chucky. How is the principal beheaded? So, episode 6, they find out Chucky is alive. They don't understand how, but they know it. Meanwhile, there are more returns. Andy and Kyle are back. Andy returned in the end credit scene of Cult of Chucky. He played a bigger part in. I'm sorry. He returned in a end credit scene in Curse of Chucky. He played a bigger part in Cult of Chucky, and Kyle, his stepsister from Child's Play 2, returned at the end of Cult of Chucky as well. They are looking for all of the Chuckies that escaped from the asylum. Somehow Andy broke out, and Kyle is now helping him. There's a really cool scene where they go to a family's house pretending to be census takers. And they start asking the daughter about all of her stuffed animals, pretending to the family or to the parents that they're doing this to make the kids feel included so that they'll be more interested in this stuff as they grow up. Eventually, she brings out her buddy Charles, who is, of course, Chucky. Chucky is acting like just a doll at this moment, but he knows what's up, so he basically says something along the lines of, "This is your fault, Andy," and he attempts to kill the little girl, but Kyle and Andy get the best of him and destroy him in front of this horrified family before leaving. We learn that Andy has not lived a very conventional life, which we kind of knew from Cult of Chucky. He tries dating, but his information about everything he's gone through is out there. We learn he can't drive worth a crap because he never really had good teachers. Kyle, on the other hand, has a more traditional life. She actually has either a boyfriend or fiance, I don't remember. But either way, she's got a love interest who she's currently away from because she's helping Andy hunt down these dolls. Meanwhile, back to the kids. Their favorite teacher, Miss Fairchild, who's amazing, greatest teacher ever. I'm going to talk about her a bit more in my second video. But she's arrested as the main suspect for Oliver's murder, the police officer's murder, as well as the principal's murder. How they reached this conclusion, I didn't understand. They did say that she was the last one to see the principal alive, but I don't even recall her being at the town hall meeting, whereas multiple people saw the principal alive before she was killed. So, I don't know. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with Devin's mother. Sometimes she seemed like a really bad cop. Other times it was interesting that she seemed to be wondering, is Chucky alive? So, I don't know. Weird scene. The teacher's locked up for the murders. Back at the hotel, Tiffany and Nika are playing cards. Nika is in control of her body again, and she's doing her best to pretend to be Chucky so that Tiffany won't realize what's happening. Tiffany's not buying it, but pretends she did. One of the tells for her was that Nika is nervous and is biting her fingernails, which Chucky doesn't do. But perhaps an even bigger tell, I love this coming from Tiffany. 10 minutes before the conversation, Tiffany had stabbed Nika in the leg, and Nika didn't feel it, which Chucky would have because he's not paraplegic when he's in control. So Tiffany winds up revealing that she actually prefers to be with Nika over Chucky, probably because Nika's not as abusive. Even when she's pretending to be Chucky, she's still a nice person. The Chucky's awful treatment towards her, I don't think, would continue. So, Tiffany prefers to be with Nika, but still winds up knocking Nika out. Now, this episode I'm talking about here is, to me, the saddest episode. We see Bree at her therapist's appointment. Um, while Junior's waiting downstairs, she's standing at a window by herself, and Chucky shoves her out of the window. He rams her with a cart to send her falling to her death, where she lands right on top of the car that Junior is in. So poor Bree. Of course, the moment we found out she had cancer, we knew her time was limited. I mean, I personally never thought she was going to die of cancer. For sure, Chucky was going to get her long before that. But Chucky winds up killing her right in front of Junior. And when I say in front of, I don't mean Junior witnesses him doing it. He just sees her land right in front of him. So later on, the three kids who are aware of Chucky have set a trap for Chucky. Unfortunately for them, Chucky knows about the trap, and he calls Devon's mother and tells her that they are. I think they're at the Wheeler's house. I can't remember if they're at the Wheeler's house or back at Lexi's, but I think they're at Logan and Bree's. Junior and Logan are at the funeral home making arrangements for Bree's funeral. So a struggle ensues. Chucky attempts to convince Lexi to kill Jake, and she pretends like she's interested, but she's not. They all gang up on Jake, and he manages to escape. And there's a weird moment where Chucky has the chance to hurt Devon and doesn't. He just runs right by him. The reason for this is because when Devon's mother arrives, he causes her death right in front of all three kids. So Devon has just witnessed his mother's death the same way that Jake witnessed his father's death. He causes her to fall down the stairs where she breaks her neck. So episode 7 is Bree's funeral. And for some reason, dumbass Junior blames Jake for Bree's suicide. At the funeral, Jennifer Tilly shows up. For those who don't know, in Seed of Chucky, Tiffany possessed Jennifer Tilly's body. Jennifer, did I say her name right? I might have merged her names. So even though I've been referring to her as Tiffany when talking about her, she appears to be Jennifer Tilly to everyone. So Jennifer Tilly arrives. The kids don't actually know who she is. And she kisses Logan, which was a weird scene to me. Not just the kiss itself, but the fact that Logan does nothing about it. Like, you're at your wife's funeral. You don't even know who this woman is. He might recognize her as an actress. It's never actually stated if he does. But just why did he not push her away? It made no sense to me personally. So, Andy and Kyle, who were called by Devon and Jake earlier, they're on the way to town. But Andy abandons Kyle because he wants her to be able to live her life and not get killed off by Chucky. So he plans to go and take care of the few remaining Chucky dolls without her. Jake, kind of believing that everyone blames him for everything, decides to run away. But while he's at the bus depot, he sees a delivery man carrying a good guy doll. So he stops and gets the doll from the guy. He pays him to just give it to him and asks for the address to where the doll was being delivered to. He finds out that the doll was being delivered to Charles Lee Ray's old home address. So Jake and Lexi begin talking, and Lexi reveals that that Chucky had attempted to get Caroline to kill her. And they begin wondering, this is the third time that Chucky has tried to convince someone to commit murder. What's going on with that? So they have no idea what's going on. And one of the weird things about this to me is all through the season, Chucky is doing that. He's trying to get kids to kill people. Yet a few times he doesn't seem to want to wait for Jake to kill Lexi. He just decides to do it himself, which makes it much harder if he wants to get Jake to kill someone. If you wind up killing the one person Jake might actually want to kill. So I didn't understand why Chucky was so fixated on killing Lexi, whether it was Jake that did it or himself. Why is he specifically wanting to do it? But eventually Chucky comes forth to Junior, and very weird scene that I don't understand. Personally, I think this was bad writing in many ways. Maybe they'll try to explain this somewhat at some point, but I doubt it. But Chucky acknowledges that he's been trying to convince people to kill, and yet everyone thinks Bree committed suicide. I mean, Chucky openly admitted to Junior that he has tried to get Jake to kill Lexi, and that he's tried to convince others to do it as well. And it hasn't worked. And Junior never pieces together that, hey, maybe my mom wouldn't kill herself basically right on top of me. I'm sorry, I just don't buy that no matter how much grief he's going through, that he should not have realized this. Lexi literally already told him, Chucky's alive and is killing people. And yet Junior never pieces together that Chucky killed his mother. And instead, Chucky somehow convinces him that Bree killed herself because Logan was having an affair with that woman, Jennifer Tilly. So Junior decides to kill Daddy Dearest. A creepy scene here where Logan, drunk as all get out, goes in there, and Chucky starts talking to him as himself. And Logan's so out of it between grief, anger at what he believes is Bree's suicide, and the alcohol, that he can't really fathom what's going on. And Junior eventually winds up beating him to death with Chucky. And this leads to kind of another we've got the beat moment, which had happened back at the hospital. Part of me thinks there was always something wrong with Junior that they just didn't bother to explain. Because it's weird for this song to come up again when he had that weird moment with it at the hospital. But after he kills Chucky, after he kills his dad, Chucky's excited and like, do you have any idea how long I've been trying to get one of you assholes to kill for me? So while all this was going on, Devin had began investigating, and for some reason, he winds up at Charles Lee Ray's old house, and he discovers Nika tied up. So he frees her, not realizing that when Tiffany knocked Nika out, it brought Chucky back into play. Of course, Devin does not know that Nika is Chucky. He releases her, and Chucky kidnaps him, and we see a bunch of dolls downstairs. So Chucky, all excited that Junior killed at his urging. We haven't found out why yet, but all of a sudden, all these dolls come to life. I should note, one thing I forgot to mention is that the good guy doll that Jake got from the delivery guy, they've checked it, they've verified that it's not alive. Well, after Junior kills his dad, all the Chucky dolls downstairs at Charles Lee Ray's house, as well as the doll on the counter at Lexi and Jake's, comes to life. I don't understand how the doll at Lexi and Jake's comes to life when no version of Chucky has actually interacted with this doll at any point. I can understand the other dolls because they're at Tiffany's house. There's a version of Chucky there. He could have prepared these for coming alive, but how is the one that they've never come in contact with alive? I don't know. That didn't make sense. That leads us into the final episode. The doll attempts to kill Lexi and Jake, but before it can, Kyle arrives, and she winds up shooting and killing it. She explains to the kid exactly what's going on, how if Chucky is able to convince an innocent to commit murder, it will allow him to put his soul into far more bodies than he could in the past. A reason is never given for how limited his ability was, but apparently there was a limit to it, and he can now put his soul in a lot more. But they all have to be identical vessels, with the exception of Nika. Why he's allowed to possess Nika is never stated. Nor is it explained why he was able to put his soul into Alice, which was revealed in Cult of Chucky. So it's kind of inconsistent, but that's how it goes. So that's the reason that Chucky was trying to get Jake to kill Lexi, why he tried to get Caroline to kill Lexi, and why he tried to get Lexi to kill Jake. So Andy has arrived, and there's a tense scene where he's searching for Chucky at Junior's place, but doesn't find him and leaves. Not really sure why Junior and Chucky didn't just try to get the best of him in that scene. Junior is basically completely gone at this point. Thankfully, actually showing some personality now. He was like completely boring throughout the season, and he actually kind of starts showing some personality now that he's embraced the dark side. But so Junior meets up with Tiffany and Nika Chucky, as well as the Chucky doll he's with. He's uncomfortable seeing Devin there, and definitely does not want to kill Devin. It's mentioned multiple times that they're friends, though we never really see them acting too much together. But it is stated that Devin did go over to Junior's house before the series, so they're friends. Weird scene happens in which I forget why, but Tiffany gets fed up with Chucky's antics, especially when the Nika Chucky and doll Chucky are kind of treating her like crap. And something happens, and Nika winds up in control of her body again. Tiffany reveals to Chucky that she was the one who called the police on him back in 1988, which is what led Detective Mike Norris to shooting him, and him being forced to put his soul into a doll's body. He attempts to kill Chucky, to kill Tiffany, but is stopped because for some reason she's super important to the plan. But what's weird is that when Nika Chucky is about to kill Tiffany, he references how he's killed her multiple times, and he says that this will be the final time, which is weird because Cult of Chucky, there was a second Tiffany. There was a doll version and a human version. So even if you kill her, where is the Tiffany doll? So he winds up stopping to do that, and then he orders Tiffany to kill Nika. She's a weakness with the way she keeps taking possession. He doesn't need that body anymore. She won't do it, and instead decides to kill Chucky. So all the dolls are sent to an event that's being hosted by the mayor, in which she's going to appear as Jennifer Tilly. Except Junior manages to keep one of the dolls. Tiffany, meanwhile, has placed a bomb at the location so that when Andy and Kyle show up, it'll explode. Andy is too smart to fall for that, and he gets in and frees Devin. Kyle arrives. She had, after explaining what was going on to Lexi and Jake, she poisoned them to keep them safe, to make sure that they were not involved in the finale. She didn't want them getting killed by Chucky. She arrives and triggers the bomb. So when Lexi and Jake wake up, they had already discovered that that Devin was at Charles Lee Ray's old house. They find out that there was an explosion there with multiple fatalities. Or I should just say fatalities, not multiple. But the article did say multiple, which makes no sense based off what happens. I'll mention that in a bit. So everyone, they think that Devin is dead and are excited to find out that Devin survived. Um, Devin explains to Jake that there are now multiple living Chuckies. And Jake mentions that Chucky's been trying to convince one of the kids to kill someone, and Devin reveals that Junior killed his father. He never heard it explicitly stated with those words, but they did refer, or one of the Chuckies, I believe, referred to Junior as having killed or committed patricide. So Devin realizes that Junior killed his dad. So back at the movie theater, Junior pretends that he's being kidnapped by Chucky to lure Lexi away so that they can get back together, I think. I don't know. Junior's motives here make no sense. He wants Lexi to be with him and for them to become killers alongside Chucky, but she refuses. When Chucky gets tired of all this, he decides to kill Lexi, but Junior instead attacks the doll he's been carrying and kills off Chucky. But it comes at the cost of his own life because Chucky stabs him fatally. So Junior, I guess, redeems himself. I don't know. I don't consider him redeemed. He did it for Lexi, who he's in love with, for reasons that never made any sense given the way she's behaved. I'm like, bro, she mocked your uncle's death and acted like it was no big deal. Ugh. But Chucky winds up killing multiple people at the theater, which creates a panic. He kills off Lexi and Caroline's father, but sadly, the mayor actually does survive. And Jake winds up actually killing a Chucky doll barehanded, which I think is the first time that's ever happened. So go Jake. All the dolls that Tiffany planned to get sent out to multiple children's hospitals for Chucky to commit mass murders all over get stolen by Andy. Weird moment where Tiffany, when she realizes Andy is in control of all the dolls, freaks out, which makes no sense because, and this is kind of something I'd referenced earlier, there's a Tiffany doll in the truck, and she has a gun. So basically, she gains control over Andy. The first time these two characters have met. And again, why was Nika saying this would be the last time he'd kill Tiffany when there's another version of Tiffany out there? I don't know. Didn't make sense. So the show ends with two scenes, one of which is Tiffany has removed both Nika's arms and legs because she does not want Chucky regaining control and trying to kill her. So Nika, still alive, but has no arms or legs, which leaves me wondering what is there for her to do in the new season. And then Miss Fairchild has been released, and she takes all three kids to the graveyard to say goodbye to their parents. Each one lost a parent during the season. Jake lost his dad, Devin his mother, and Lexi her dad. And so that's basically how the season ends, though we do see someone with a black glove is watching them. Okay, guys, this went way, way longer than I anticipated, and I've still got one more episode to film. So I'm going to change into something a little more comfortable, and make sure that you follow along and click that link. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm Ravi Olive. This was Wednesday Ramblings, Part 1 for this week.